The United States government shutdown, the mechanics and political impasse. If you follow international politics or the financial markets, you have certainly heard of the strange phenomenon where the government of the United States can simply stop functioning. This critical event is known as a government shutdown. The core question is, how can the world's largest economy enter into administrative collapse due to its own political rules? That is what we are going to detail right now. The paralyzation of the American public machine, the shutdown, is not triggered by a lack of money in the Treasury, but by a very specific and technical reason: the lack of legal authorization to spend. This is the absolute heart of the problem. In the United States, Congress has the constitutional responsibility to approve every year specific funding bills for all federal agencies and departments. This entire process must be concluded, without exception, before the end of the fiscal year, which ends sharply on September 30th. The cause of the gridlock. A shutdown is triggered when Congress, frequently divided between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, fails to reach an agreement on the federal budget. Unlike most parliamentary systems, where rejecting the budget might trigger an election. In the United States, the rule is strict and clear. No approval means no new funding for most services. The impasse arises because, with political control often split between the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the presidency, the minority party uses budget approval as a powerful political bargaining chip. For example, one party might demand cuts in health programs like Medicaid, or require specific funding for border security or cultural issues, conditioning their vote on these demands. Politics are played at the edge of the cliff. Without consensus by the deadline, the money for discretionary spending simply runs out, and the government loses the legal authority to issue new payments and expenditures, which triggers the paralysis. To buy time, Congress sometimes attempts to pass a temporary funding measure called a stopgap. But if this too fails, the shutdown becomes unavoidable. Affected agencies and the human cost. It is important to understand that a shutdown is not total. Activities deemed essential for security, health, and the protection of life continue. This includes active duty military personnel, air traffic controllers, and border security agents. However, the rest of the federal machine is forced to shut down. Let us detail the main agencies and services that are immediately affected and suspended: tourism and culture. All national parks, such as the famous Grand Canyon, and federal museums and monuments, like the Statue of Liberty in New York, are immediately closed or operate with severe restrictions. This quickly cripples the local tourism economy. International travel and immigration. The issuance and processing of passports and visas at U.S. embassies abroad suffer huge delays or are suspended entirely. The processing of citizenship and permanent residency applications at the U.S. Immigration Agency, USCIS, also slows down dramatically, affecting the lives of millions. Transportation and air safety. While essential air traffic controllers remain on post, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, may furlough thousands of civilian employees, causing potential flight delays and long lines at airports due to a lack of support staff. Scientific research and public health. Vital agencies like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, furlough employees. This halts scientific research, experiments, and the collection of epidemiological surveillance data, posing a long-term risk to public health. Financing and regulation. The processing of federal student loans is suspended, and the release of loans and guarantees for small businesses also stops. Food safety and regulatory inspections by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, are significantly reduced. The human and financial cost to workers. The cruelest aspect falls on federal employees. Roughly 750,000 workers classified as non-essential are placed on unpaid leave, known as a furlough. They are sent home and cannot work, losing their immediate income. Meanwhile, essential employees, such as government firefighters and military personnel, must continue working, but without receiving payment until the political stalemate is resolved. Although back pay is usually approved after the paralysis ends, the immediate uncertainty causes severe financial distress to families. Global economic impact and conclusion. The paralysis of the U.S. government has ripples that extend far beyond the nation's borders, directly impacting financial markets and even global monetary policy. First, the data blackout and the Federal Reserve. Crucial agencies like the Department of Labor stop collecting and releasing vital economic reports, such as the official monthly jobs report. Without this essential data, the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, has difficulty assessing the current economic landscape and making informed decisions about interest rate policy. This lack of visibility increases uncertainty in currency markets and stock exchanges across the world. Second, impact on GDP and confidence. Economic estimates consistently show that each week of a shutdown costs the American economy billions of dollars and has the potential to reduce the country's gross domestic product (GDP) growth. This severely affects the confidence of international investors, who view the paralysis as a sign of institutional fragility and heightened political risk. The resolution. The paralysis only ends when Congress and the President can finally negotiate a deal. Typically, the agreement involves passing a temporary funding bill, the stopgap, to immediately reopen the government and resume services. The shutdown is in essence a recurring symptom of the rigid American political system, where the need for consensus between two historically opposed parties is weaponized as a political lever, but the price is paid by the citizens and consequently by global economic stability. If you enjoyed this detailed content and want to understand more about the global economy and how it affects your wallet, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. The goal is always to get you more money. See you next time.